That's our own CJ.
Yeah,
Start
yeah.
the show
In a suit.
in a suit. Yes, sir, Bob,
In a
CJ.
suit.
He was out last week, and now we see why, where he was. CJ was at the historic Warner Theater in Washington, D.C. Welcome to the Thought Brothers. This is our Hot Topic show. Before we get started, CJ, just tell us what was it like to share the stage with the likes of people who stood there like Frank Sinatra and all the other big stars. Talk to us. Give us a 30-second or so rundown.
Like I said, it's probably take more than 30 seconds. I might need a
All right,
full
go
Thought
ahead.
Brothers interview, but it was a great experience. Like I said, that's why they just tell you, to be ready for whenever big opportunities call and be prepared and, like I said, having fun with it. Try not to, be too stressed out about things and the details and making it all happen. But and ultimately, like I said, I had a little anxiety because it's a different crowd than I'm used to playing for. But like I said, tailor the set, play a little blues music. I have like one of the best bands, like probably in the country, honestly, to put some music together and had a good time, like I said. And it seems like it was well received.
Okay. All right. Well, you know what? Today is September 10th. Um, Talk to us about what's happening in the world. You're gonna kick us off with your hot topics and whatever's on your mind. Go ahead.
We'll start negative and then flip to positive. Let's do that since we're going to be on reverse today. So I guess we'll start with politics. What's going on in the world? The president is almost 100% a pedophile as they released the Jeffrey Epstein letter that Trump had written and signed with his very distinctive signature in a weird book with a very cryptic note to Jeffrey Epstein about shared secrets and some weird, very creepy message that JD Vance was saying didn't exist, and oh, if it existed, the Democrats will release it. Well, they released it, and I think they said it was the Epstein estate that released it to the Democrats and things like that. But it is just another piece of mounting evidence that not that we needed any more evidence. I mean, like as again, Epstein and Trump were best friends for a decade and have a long history together, but to show that Donald Trump was up to, he might be the biggest pedophile in those Epstein files and we'll never get them. There was also a sting operation on one of his operatives, one of the Republican operatives, and they said that their plan was to release the Epstein files but redact all the Republican names and to leave the Democrats and anybody who was a political opponent unredacted in that. And then Mike Johnson this week said that Donald Trump was an FBI informant that was there to stop the Epstein stuff. So not only he was a secret agent, like he only was with those underage girls, to stop Epstein is was the story, which was quickly walked back. Which like he only did pedophilia for the government was the argument, and now they're walking that back and saying it's a hoax again, but weirdly not denying things in the way they should. He's guilty, obviously, those things, but beyond that. We had a very prominent political commentator murdered today in very ironic fashion. Charlie Kirk, founder, I think he's a founder, or at least the face of Turning Point USA, which
Yeah,
is a
he's a
group
founder.
that, yeah, that the group that
Yeah.
is their whole deal is to go to try to create more young conservatives on college campuses, and they go debate, people, and they do a lot of right wing propaganda. So I'm very familiar with Charlie Kirk's game. Charlie Kirk is extremely racist, so it's really one of those things where it's hard to feel bad, but I don't think anybody deserves to go out like that. There's no real place for that level of political violence. Like I was telling my boy Trey today, that's like, Charlie Kirk's not a politician. As much as he has a destructive effect on the discourse in America, he's not the one making the decisions. Charlie Kirk is a talking piece for those big donors and those big money donors. So that's like shooting Stephen A. Smith because you're mad at your team. You know what I'm saying? Like Stephen A. Smith, he is the mouthpiece. He's not the person making the decision. So I don't really understand the decision to snipe Charlie Kirk, to go through that effort for just who's really nothing but an asshole political commentator. But I don't think that is a reason for you to be murdered. And again, Charlie Kirk's only 31. who knows if he could, see the light at some point in his life and change, his viewpoints and things like that. It just is no place for political violence, and it's going to open up a very, very dark precedent for political violence in America because Charlie Kirk is very popular on the right. And obviously, you're already seeing people blaming this on the left, even though we have no details on the shooter. And Charlie Kirk spent his entire career basically um, talking about how he has a very famous quote talking about how some people just need to die so our Second Amendment rights can be protected. So some people are just going to have to die of gun violence, and that's just the price we're going to have to pay. So there are a lot of people are pointing out to that quote that he died very consistent with the beliefs that he espoused, which is, some people just have to be murdered in America because our rights to have unrestricted gun access is more important. He also was a proponent and always harping on black crime, and that all these shooters, it's because of these dangerous big cities, and that's who you need to fear, and that these black people are inherently more dangerous and more criminal. I highly doubt that his shooter is going to turn out to be a black man. And also, he fearmongered about big cities all the time. Boy got clapped in Utah. So I don't think the Mormons, are from the big city. So again, it's very ironic, but I still don't think it's really anything worth celebrating, even if you hate the man or even if you hate everything that, he was about. He was, not sympathetic to anyone outside of his causes. And again, this is one of those things where I don't think he was a good person and I pretty much despise everything about him, but I don't think you deserve a sniper bullet in the neck for, having really bad political opinions or, taking a check for being, a mouthpiece for some bad people. So I just think it's disproportionate, and I'm not going to mourn Charlie Kirk, but I don't think his death is going to have any positive effects on this country, and it's going to really could lead to a rabbit hole of violence of even, having a left wing opinion can now be dangerous, or having, it, the conservative movement is in a really unhinged place as it usually is, and they're going to look to blame this on Democrats, on the left, on trans people, on black people, on immigrants, or anything, so it's going to be a mess.
Okay. Woo. All right. Carlos, what say you?
Um, Before we get into some other topics, I mean, I heard in the news today that the 30-day federal government rule using the National Guard in Washington, D.C. has come to an end. And it appeared that, I guess, President Trump was out with some people last night at a restaurant bragging about the crime statistics during the 30 days. I mean, it's one of those situations where um, America, the land of the free and the brave, and all those things we talk about when we hear our national anthems, and the reason people come here because of the freedom. But are we really free now? I mean, it seems like we're being told by the government a lot of things, what to do and what not to do. I mean, some people see it as good, some people see it as bad. I don't even know how to see it because, living your life and for the number of years I've been here and seen 7 or 8 presidents or whatever it is, it's just a little weird that the federal government has a National Guard walking through the nation's capital, supposedly protecting it. And then the other thing was there's again the 51. He has the 51 to 49% split from a political perspective, and that's about where it is. I mean, just about half the people say, "Hey, man, he's a hero for doing this," and just the other half are like, "Why is he doing it?" And if he did it, and he didn't put them in the right areas. He had them in the touristy areas. He didn't have them in the really bad areas that really needed the help. So I don't know. It's just a lot of things that are hard to understand and take in. Are we winning? Are we losing? And then every time I hear something about the Supreme Court, um, I mean, it's almost like CJ mentioned earlier, we have plenty of evidence. I mean, I guess evidence doesn't make a difference because the Supreme Court's never going to rule against them. So at this point, we're just trying to figure out how to get through the next, until January 2029, because I don't think there's a solution. I think every day there's a new event, there's something new that's happening, there's a new city he's going to go to. And do we even have Congress anymore? It seems like everything's the executive order. So, I grew up with the judicial and executive and legislative and branches of the government, and wow, it seems like it's just the executive branch of the government now. So I don't know. The best thing I can tell people is just try to, again, like I've always said, try to protect and do what's right in your home, in your community, your city, your county. Utilize your local politicians depending upon how you feel, whether you are for or against some of these things. But it is a lot to make you think every day. It's almost like maybe it is good that the NFL and NCAA college football season is here so we can get 3 or 4 hours break away from political commentary. I'll end there and pass it to Mr. Spivey before we come back with our sports updates. But it's just a weird time. What do you think, Mr. Spivey?
Well, for me, it's just it appears as though it's just information overload. Every day is something new. CJ started off talking about Charlie Kirk and being assassinated in Utah, and I totally agree with CJ. Charlie Kirk was a staunch racist, uh, and he hitched his wagon to Donald Trump. Donald Trump tonight, I listened earlier to the news media kind of praising him that Donald Trump, the president of the United States, announced on his forum that Charlie Kirk had died and how hurt he was because he was so close to his family. Um, you know, it is for me, it's ironic because every time it seems like Donald Trump is in hot water, like this new Epstein stuff that comes out, something always occurs that trumps uh, the bad publicity on him. And I'm going to leave it at that. But, Charlie Kirk was a man who was married. He had a couple of kids. And no matter how racist and how, I guess, wrong he was in his thinking, as CJ said, nobody deserves a bullet in the neck. As far as what's going on in DC right now, I still feel that Donald Trump's plan is to take over the District of Columbia. I noticed the 30-day rule is coming to an end, but I've heard rumblings about he's trying to issue an executive order where a kid of the age of not 16 but 14 can be tried as an adult. He's also trying to issue some executive orders where he will be able to appoint the Superior Court judges in the future in the District of Columbia. And so I firmly believe that in the next year or so, the mayor is going to be a ceremonial position. And as far as the DC Council, I hope they're working on their resumes to think about what they were going to do in the future, because I think Congress is going to take over the district and they're going to be controlling the district if he's able to appoint judges. And the other thing that concerns me is if he's able to lower the age to 14 of young men being tried as an adult, they're going to end up building more prisons because they're going to be filling the prisons and they're going to be filling them with minorities. And the people that's going to be building the prisons are going to be his billionaire friends.
Yep.
And so they're going to be the ones that's going to be getting rich off of these young Black kids and Latino kids that's going to be incarcerated. So there's a whole lot going on now. It's information overload. I also came across something, I don't know if you all have been keeping up with it, but he's ending the SNAP program. And what he's doing by ending the SNAP program, there's about 40 million people on SNAP. And what he's going to do is he's going to take off 2.5 million people a year over the next decade. So he will take 20 million people off of SNAP. And, the sad part about this is that Donald Trump, his mission in life is to hurt minorities. But in order to hurt minorities, he's going to have to hurt some poor white folks. So out of this 40 million, now people are going to find out that Blacks are not the only one on welfare. I did some research, and there's more white people on welfare than there are black people. So when he decides he wants to kill the SNAP program, he's going to hurt them too. So hopefully sooner or later, people are going to realize that Donald Trump has no interest in white people that are poor and definitely no interest in black people. And I still find it very hard to understand why black people support him. It just goes, I mean, you all know I was a history teacher before I became an FBI agent. And, you know, back in the time of history in the 1800s, you had black people back even then. Master was whooping people in front of people, raping and taking their wives, selling them off, but you still had people who worshiped the master. And it's sad that 200 years later, 300 years later, you still got black people doing the same thing.
Hey, Mr. Spivey, let me throw something in there from a historical perspective. I said this on an earlier show. You have to remember that we're getting to a point where we're getting disconnected from the civil rights movement of the 50s and 60s, right? And you know, you think about it. Martin Luther King was killed, what, April of 1968? So
Yeah.
right now, you're looking at there are people 57 up to 57 years old that weren't alive when Martin Luther King was alive, up to 57 years old, right? And what happens is the younger they are, the less connected they are to their parents' stories about the civil rights movement or Jim Crow, or their grandparents' stories about the civil rights movement and Jim Crow. And they're getting further and further and further away. You know, I talk about the historical high school, Fairmont Heights High School, that I'm associated with as far as the Football Alumni Association. And it was built in 1950 for Black students only. One of two schools. There was another school, Frederick Douglass, in southern Prince George's County, southern, okay? That's a really rural area. But Fairmont Heights had 66%, 2/3 of all Black students in all of Prince George's County. And when I was saying that to some of the current students and current student athletes, their parents were saying, "Oh, we didn't know that." Their parents were saying that. So, and I'm thinking to myself, "Oh my God!" So if you have a 16-year-old kid, even if his parent, most of the parents are, had their kids in their 20s, but you say the parent is 30 years older, still only makes the parent 46 years old. They were born in, what, 1979. So again, we're getting further and further away. And I think that's why you're seeing more of a disconnect between why are African Americans, Black folks voting for Trump, because they're becoming more and more disconnected with our history of why things are the way they were. I mean, all you got to do is go back and watch the Alex Haley series Roots, and I don't know if anybody would ever vote for Republican again. So I think we have to just continue to educate the people in our communities on where we've come from, because history has a method of repeating itself. And we don't want history to repeat itself. We want to keep, rising, not going through a repeat cycle of struggle and pain. So that's my take on that.
No, Carlos, what you say, I agree with and I understand. But what I'm going to say to that is, even if you're young and you don't know about Martin Luther King, you don't know about Malcolm X, you don't know about Huey Newton, you don't know about the Black Panther Party, you know one damn thing. Donald Trump is a racist, and he does not like Black people. And unless you are an idiot, and what is that he uses, low IQ, how can you even vote for him or like him? And I don't care what age you are.
You had to
If you
answer.
dislike, one thing about me
the
is
checks with his name on it. You had to answer. You gave the answer.
if you dislike me, you can rest assured I dislike you even more. And I don't care how young they are. If they know this man is a racist and he wants to put their ass in jail and he wants to eradicate everything related to them, how can you vote for somebody like that?
They don't think that. I had a conversation
There you go.
anecdotally with a friend I went to middle school with, Black guy. I've seen he's been posting a lot of pro-Trump stuff lately. I don't even jump on the comments. I just send him a private message, and I don't even want to argue. I send him a message along the lines of like, look, I don't want to argue or change your mind. I'm just curious as to what would draw you to Donald Trump. Like what is appealing, especially with the fact that he is overwhelmingly likely a pedophile as well on top of everything. And the first response he said is, "Look, I don't agree with everything he does," which is crazy, first of all. And then second of all, it was more of like, I don't believe any of that. It's fake news and all politicians get accused. Biden had accusations, Bill Clinton this, Democrats that, but it's not, if they don't believe it. They see it and they think, oh, that's the fake news, or all the stuff Trump says, it's the Democrats lying to you, and it's and they just eat it up for whatever reason. I can't tell you why, because as you said, any basic look at the evidence is it's overwhelming that Donald Trump is incredibly racist. Just look at the people he has put in around him. He's got Stephen Miller is a freaking open Nazi, basically. And
Yeah.
you've got people in his administration. We had Elon throwing up Sig Heils at his inauguration. So it's like, I don't know how much more evidence you need, but this is just where we're at. We just have a very divided country. Nobody can decide on what the truth is anymore. And once the truth is debatable, I think that's when the country was broken.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Well, I guess we'll shift to Josh Allen justifying his winning the MVP award thanks to Derrick Henry dropping that ball on Sunday. My goodness, that was quite a game.
You mean Josh Allen showing why he was the MVP?
Yes. That's exactly what I mean.
He showed why he was the MVP.
Yeah, so I'm sure that if you didn't see it, you heard about that game. That was, as they say, must-watch TV for an opening night, Sunday Night Football. But I'll toss it over to CJ. Sports, anything going on with sports for you?
As you said, it's football season, so I mean that's the main event. That's what we're talking about. Football season, week 1 in the books. Some surprises, some things were expected. We had, like I said, how about them Cowboys? Sorry, I had to get that out.
Well, I'm gonna tell you, the Cowboys did not play bad.
Let's say Dak looked good.
They did not play bad.
Yeah.
I mean, CD dropped three passes that normally CD would have caught, and so I'm not really messed up with the Cowboys, because I think they're going to end up having a good season if they play like they played against Philly, because nobody expected that game to be even close to that.
Yeah, let's say they played tough, and I think Dak looked good. The offense looked pretty good, so I do think Dallas is going to be better than some people think. Beyond that, let's see. Aaron Rodgers got his revenge on his old team.
He did.
He still got a little juice left in the tank. Daniel Jones was out there throwing dimes and looking like maybe the Giants were the problem. I don't know. Like I said, Daniel Jones is looking mighty good out there. So we'll see what happens in Indianapolis if they can sustain that. We had let's see, notable storylines going around the league.
Michael Parsons.
Yeah, Micah Parsons got a sack in his first game with Green Bay. Green Bay looks like a very formidable team with Micah. They're on the defense added, even though, like I said, they paid a very, very steep price for it. So we'll see in the long run, if Jerry was right, or if, Micah was, gonna turn out to be better off in Green Bay. But Green Bay is certainly better off having that pass rush improved. And hopefully he's podcasting less and locked into the work. But I'm just glad he's not in the NFC East anymore. So good job, Jerry. Well,
you all got to deal with him Thursday night, CJ.
Yeah, we do. Like I said, that's one game though. Like I said, we'll see. But Jerry's in his Joe Biden era, so I welcome it. I just just keep making those decisions, Jerry. Stay as long as you can. And then of course we get to the Commanders, who had a strong showing, even though they looked a little rusty. But it was still enough to handle the Giants. The Giants' offense is still not great. They have a bad offensive line. They have one great receiver, and pretty much beyond that, just Russell Wilson to work with. And the Commanders' defense looks vastly improved with their offseason additions, getting Trey Amos in there at the cornerback position, drafting him. All the improvements on the defensive line. Javon Kinlaw looked great. Defensive tackle free agent addition. Deron Payne in a contract year looked great. Linebacker Bobby Wagner looked like he didn't lose a step. And hopefully, like I said, the defense can sustain that performance, or maybe it was just the Giants. We don't know. As for the offense, like I said, Terry and Jaden missed a big wide open bomb, so they should have had a touchdown, but It feels like hopefully they'll get on the same page. The big story was the running back situation. So we knew that the Commanders let go of Brian Robinson, who's been their running back the last couple of years. He wasn't hugely loved by the fan base because he's very slow, doesn't have a lot of burst or vision. And then they drafted this kid in the 7th round, Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt, who they call Bill. And Bill was getting a lot of hype in the preseason. And then even though he's a 7th round pick, and then when the season was about to start, they released Brian Robinson, which was a big vote of confidence, without picking up another running back. And then Bill was the number 4 running back on the depth chart going into the game this week. But nobody was buying that because of all the hype and the team hyping him up and all the hype. And so Bill ended up getting 10 carries for 82 yards in his NFL debut as a 7th round pick. He had the most rushing yards of any rookie in week 1 as a 7th round pick. And he had a run longer than Brian Robinson had his entire career in his very first game, showing that he has the burst and vision that the fans and the offense has been needing. A real home run hitter in the backfield, and possibly somebody who can be a breakout star as a 7th round pick. So another great offseason by Adam Peters, not to mention Deebo Samuel, who had maybe the biggest game of any Commanders player.
He did.
At 77 yards receiving and a touchdown on a end around. So Deebo is looking like he is back in full force. They said he was fat, but he looked pretty fast to me.
I cannot believe San Francisco let him go. I was
5th round
shocked when the
pick
49ers let him go.
for a bargain.
Maybe Debo's on a mission. But look, man, I gotta tell you that Ravens Bills, I gotta come back to that game, right? Because people in Baltimore are just too mad. Like that score was 40-25, late in the 4th quarter. And I was about to turn the TV off. They said people were leaving the stadium, okay?
Right.
And next thing I know, I said, let me just stay up a couple more minutes. Game's almost over. And next thing I know, Derrick Henry is fumbling. The Bills are just converting. And next thing I know, it comes down to a last-second field goal. There was no time. I think there was no timeouts left. So they just ran the last play, got everybody out on the field, kicked this field goal, won the game 41-40. So anybody who wants to blame Derrick Henry, it ain't Derrick Henry's fault. He had a great night. He had 1 fumble. If you give up 41 points in the game, the old Ravens would not have given up 41 points in 4 games. They gave up 41 points in a game. You're supposed to lose. Like, I'm not sure why they thought they were going to win giving up 41 points. So I think the question, and even though I always get them confused. John Harbaugh, I believe, is in Baltimore, and Jim is his brother, who's in San Diego. So Mr. Coach Harbaugh in Baltimore has been there like 20 years. And he's always had a good competitive team. I mean, he won the Super Bowl back in 2012? So it's been a while. He beat his brother in the Super Bowl.
Sure did.
When his brother coached San Francisco and Colin Kaepernick. But they're saying, man, if they don't get over the hump this year, a lot of the fans are in favor of a reboot, like a rebuild, like new coach. Like, if you're a Commanders fan, it's like, 20 winning seasons. And 1 Super Bowl, I might have to take that if you've been a Commanders fan. But things look different for us. And like CJ said, the defense for the Commanders, they didn't let the Giants get in the end zone. That was 2 field goals. Russell Wilson's supposed to be the answer. He couldn't toss a touchdown pass. Either Washington's defense is much better, much more improved than we think, or Russell Wilson's really done. So I'm not sure what's going to happen in the NFC East. Other than to say, my prediction still stands. This year's Super Bowl will be Washington versus Buffalo, and Washington will beat Buffalo in the Super Bowl. So I'm sticking to it after week 1. I'm still in. That's my thought.
All right, Mr. Spivey, you going to close us out in any sports talk?
Well, no, another game that was really exciting was the game with the Minnesota Vikings and the Chicago Bears. That was another game where, Minnesota, people were leaving the stadium, and Minnesota came back. And in the game where you're talking about, Carlos, with the Ravens and the Bills, people were leaving and it's gone. My wife even was looking at it with me. She said, I'm going to bed. I'm not wasting my time on this. And they scored 16 points in 4 minutes. And it's really sad because people are going to dog Derrick Henry, but Derrick Henry played a hell of a game.
That's
Oh,
right.
He ran 2 touchdowns. I mean, he
Yep.
made one mistake. He fumbled the ball, but the defense should have been able to stop Josh Allen. Josh Allen was the one that marched down the field and then turned around and did it a second time. I think he ran the second one in himself.
yeah.
But there was another game, I don't know if you all followed it, was the other Harbaugh, Jim Harbaugh. He's coaching San Diego,
Oh,
and
yeah.
they took the Lions to the cleaners. And I mean, the
Oh,
quarterback.
Chargers beat the Chiefs.
Yeah.
Chiefs,
Oh,
yeah.
the Chiefs.
Chiefs.
That's what it was. They beat
Yeah.
the Chiefs. I mean, they took them to the cleaners. And as far as New York, I have to go with CJ. I think it must be the team because Daniel Jones was throwing dimes and Russell Wilson has gone to New York and he's throwing wood nickels. so I think it's got to be New York Giants and the coaching staff. But there were some good games, but I think I don't know if you'll see the Washington Commanders and the Buffalo Bills in the Super Bowl. You may end up seeing a repeat of the Ravens and the Buffalo Bills, but I don't think you'll see the Commanders.
Well, it's early. It's early.
Okay.
All right.
And don't
Well-
count Dallas out because Dallas played a good game. That was the first game of the season.
Yeah.
It was Monday night. Yeah.
CJ wants Jerry Jones to stay in the chair.
Yeah, I need him.
You should call it Jerry Dan because he has become the Dan Snyder of the NFL. I mean, it's just, in the words of Denzel, money is not everything.
Well, you know what?
And I have a problem with Jerry, and I've said it before. Jerry Jones had a problem paying CeeDee Lamb. He had a problem paying Ezekiel Elliott. He had a problem paying Dak Prescott. But I never heard him at once have a problem paying Tony Romo or Jason Witten or any of the other players. And I'll leave it at that.
All right.
And he's friends with Donald Trump.
Yeah, we'll let people figure out and make the connecting points for you there, Mr. Spivey.
Okay.
All right, folks. I'm Gary Johnson. We talked politics, hot topics, and sports. And until next time, make sure you get your Dak Prescott pajamas on, and we'll see how things go for week 2. I'm Gary for the Thought Brothers. We are out of here.
Take care, folks.